Come mai, come mai, la Champions League tu non la vinci mai.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Brothers of the World podcast. It's me, your host, Mikey. We've got our regular guys here. We've got Hristo and we've got Chino. And we've got a lot to talk about today. Everything that's been happening over the past week. We've got the game that's happened. We've got some Conte talk, some transfer rumors to come for you guys. And so without further ado, we'll just go ahead and get into it. We had the game. Didn't go too well. We lost 1-0 to Manchester United. I'm sure you've all seen it by now. You've all been through the madness of losing and what all comes with that on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you've been. So the lineup, it seemed pretty standard. Hristo, what did you think about the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, the lineup, we were without one of our best players, and we had to start some young and some players that are on their way out. Handanovic, D'Ambrosio, De Vrij, and Skriniar were as expected. Candreva, more so. Gagliardini, last game, I don't think he started. Brozovic was expected, as it was the case with Sensi. But Dalbert starting on the left wing-back position was surprising to me, especially because even though Perisic is not a left wing-back, as we saw even last year, he had a decent match against Lugano, and he showcased some ability and qualities for that position. As far as the attack goes, Esposito and Longo started against Manchester, and both of them were kind of expected because both of them started against Lugano. But Esposito is too young and Longo is too bad to play against a quality opponent, as it is the case with Manchester.
Chino, did you see anything in the lineup that really kind of turned you off of the game or maybe made you want to watch the game? Or did you just tune in for the sake of tuning in?
Well, basically tuned in for the sake of tuning in. The only surprise I would say was Dalbert coming in, really. I wasn't expecting him to start over Perisic, but given the players we have on tour right now, the lineup was as expected for me.
Yeah, I thought much of the same. When I saw the lineup, I think it's almost a carbon copy of what played against Lugano. And, I mean, that's decent enough to beat Lugano, but you're not really going to put up too much of a fight against United, which I was kind of in denial about. Like, I really wanted to see something from these guys. But, I mean, Longo doesn't even look like he wants to be out there. It just really looked rough. The first half, I mean, we held our own. The defense has really carried us. We are really lucky to have De Vrij and Skriniar back there with Handanovic. United pressed us pretty high and really just tucked us in back in the first half. Chino, what did you think about the first half?
Wow, it was dreadful. I saw some people saying this is Conte ball.
Suffer ball.
This is not what. Yeah, I hope this isn't what we have to look forward to going forward throughout the season. I understand Manchester more advanced in preparations and whatnot, so they had more legs in them, but it was rough. It really was rough to watch.
It's almost hard to talk about this. Like, I sound kind of downtrodden about it, but it's because there was not much good about it, which, I mean, what's really positive is that most of these guys aren't going to be starting.
When you say most of these guys, okay, the attack for sure, we're hoping not Dalbert, but who else isn't going to be starting?
Godin will be in for D'Ambrosio. The
defense was pretty safe.
Yeah, the defense was probably one of our best spots. I mean, we'll have Barella coming in. He made his debut, so he'll probably be there where either Sensi or Gagliardini was.
And basically, half of the team is not going to start. D'Ambrosio is not going to start. Yeah. Gagliardini, Dalbert, Esposito, Longo. That's already 5 players. And Candreva is a maybe. We don't know about Lozaro's quality so far. So there are 5 or 6 players in the starting lineup that are either a backup players or are not even going to be at Inter when the transfer window closes.
Yeah, it was a really terrible lineup. We all kind of saw it from the beginning. We saw it coming. I mean, if you're not getting guys in, if you're not getting the shit out that you need to get out, you're just going to be stuck with something like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I need to comment on about the game that I didn't see many people mention or anybody I saw mention. It showed on ESPN for me, and it shows on HD, and the uniforms didn't look that good playing
Yeah.
on the field. I think we looked like the green was very similar to the grass, and it just looked like heads running around a
It's
little
not even
bit
that.
with some black.
The
What?
V-neck was awful.
Yeah, the jersey looks nice on, I don't know, in pictures and whatnot, but on the field it really didn't look as good as it does on the models or whatnot.
Well, I
I just
mean,
had
it's
to say
more of
that.
a fashion piece now. I think is what
Yeah,
we were going for with that, which it'll sell shirts, but we have to sit there and watch it for a whole year now.
yeah, it didn't look that nice on the field.
So
Yeah,
Handanovic in the first half was pretty reliable, as he's always reliable, at least since he's been captain in our team. Um, D'Ambrosio had a decent first half. If we take into consideration that he's not going to start when Godin comes back, De Vrij and Skriniar were pretty good, with De Vrij being better than Skriniar. Skriniar had some flaws in the first half. Candreva and Gagliardini didn't do much. Candreva was bad. He had some pretty bad passes, bad runs. He lost a ball a few times. And Gagliardini was just running around without any purpose, it seemed like. Brozovic ran a lot. It's something that we expect from him, but it was only a 10-day preparation for the match. So even though he ran a lot, he was quite exhausted by the end of it. Since it was kind of surprising for me, I don't know about you, but I didn't expect from him to fit in so nicely so early. He has some passing skills. His set piece delivery is quite decent, and it seemed like he's a whole package when it comes to an Italian player that we cannot say about any Italian player that we had in the past 10 years, with the exception of Materazzi maybe. Dalbert, I won't even comment on him. The same goes.
It's so
The
fucked
same
up.
goes for Longo.
You really need, yeah, exactly. There's no comment for like a couple of players. We stop at the
It's like,
midfield.
yeah.
We have nobody else to talk about.
And you can just mention Esposito that he was trying, and he's the youngest of them all. It's like it's not even worth it to comment on the other.
yeah. Well, Esposito, he had like a couple of good touches, but he was just getting bodied. Like he doesn't have the strength. He has the strength of a 17-year-old. You can't ask the world of this guy. And Dalbert was getting bullied by a guy who was playing for Crystal Palace that nobody knew about a year ago. It was god awful.
Yeah.
I stopped even talking or thinking about him after the Empoli match. I just refrained from talking about him, and I hope he leaves Inter at the end of the month.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to go. Dalberto Carlos, it was a pleasure. No, actually, it was not.
D'Alberto Icardi in Juventus.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
So what did you guys think about the second half? It looked a lot like the first game where we had a lot of subs coming on. We made subs. Manchester United made subs. They brought on the Mason Greenwood kid who scored the goal. If you go on Manchester United Twitter, that's like the second coming of any legend that you want to put on there. But what did you think about our guys, maybe?
Van Persie, I saw. I think I saw comparison of a Van Persie goal.
Oh, my God.
That was terrible.
I couldn't watch it. After the first half, it was 7:30. The game started by 7:30 a.m. At 8:45 or 8:30, I needed to move on with my day, and I turned off the TV and went about my business. Sorry, I couldn't watch it anymore.
Hashtag
Yeah,
It was that bad for me, that first half.
It was 7:30 start for me too. I almost forgot about it, and I rolled over at like 7:10. Saw lineups were out, and then got up, and it was not a pleasant morning. So it was much of the same from the first half. We saw a lot of like subs, of course, but something I wanted to note was the fitness of these guys. Even just 10 days in, they were still running in the second half up to like the 60th minute when the subs started coming in. Like they were still running full speed. So that's props to those guys. The guy that came from Real, I forget his name at the moment. But yeah, I thought that was the only standout to me.
So what I'm gonna take out of the second half is that we are quite decent, or we are improving from passing from the back and going from back to front in a quick manner. So that's, I think, the most I can take out of the second half. especially because half of our team was first team players. Even though most of them are backups, it's still kind of disappointing to see them not even trying to compete against Manchester United's youngsters. They're 17, 18, 19, and they had more desire to prove themselves. I get that, but it was quite disappointing to see our midfield just give up all of a sudden, and they're not tracking back. Kendra was constantly behind his player. That Chong guy was quite decent, and D'Ambrosio was quite decent in the second half. He saved a goal on the line. Pogba was making a Gagliardini a fool. He dribbled past him a couple of times. But saying that, Gagliardini was quite terrible in the first half. And even though he was spun out by Pogba, he was not as bad in the second half. I can say that also about Dalbert. And even though I think we can all agree that Dalbert is kind of the worst player that we've seen at the Inter shirt in the last years. He improved in the second half. That's all I can say.
So I'm glad you mentioned Pogba, but wow, he was head and shoulders the best player on that field. Seeing a world class player amongst our team or against our team is just a big difference in quality. It was amazing to see actually.
It
I
was.
just had to say that. He just looks so good compared to our
I mean,
players.
was the last player that we've seen as good as Pogba? Snyder maybe after the triplete in 2010-11? Who else? I cannot think of any other player except maybe Brozovic, who's quite decent but far from a world class. But yeah, Pogba.
Yeah, he dribble around our midfielders. I haven't seen Pogba play that much recently since he moved to Manchester. I know he's been getting a lot of flack over there. People not really enjoying his style and what he does and whatnot. But wow, he's
It's not even
amazing.
what he does or doesn't do. It's like maybe many people made fun of him because he needs some players behind him to protect him, to give him the ball, to give him the space, and he did that at Juventus. He was quite good at it. But look at Manchester. Like Matic was terrible on the field. If they cannot compete against, or if they can compete against this Inter on a certain level, they cannot compete on the Premier League level when all of them are getting so much money. Most of them, 70-80% of them are investing the money. Liverpool won the Champions League. City was so dominant. Chelsea, I don't know about them. But Tottenham is constantly doing something. So Manchester, even though they won the match, they showed something, but I don't think that's enough to have a success later on in the season, both in Europe and the Premier League. But as you said, like seeing Pogba against our midfield is like watching a man playing with boys. It's like so embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, speaking of embarrassing, we all saw and have seen over and over the recordings of Skriniar getting his ass handed to him by a 17-year-old.
It's not even that. Like most of the clips were taken out of context. I don't think he had an amazing game in particular, but he was not as bad as people portrayed him to be. He had some clearances. He did something good. But also, what I liked about him is that even though he was a left center back in a three-man defense, he was coming out constantly, covering up position for Dalbert when Dalbert would go further up the pitch. So he made many clearances. He missed some balls, but I cannot blame the man, especially when they had only 10 days to prepare for the match, or not even 10 days. They were playing Lugano a week prior. So, I mean, as I said on Twitter, I don't think the match was supposed to be about winning or losing. It was about Conte implementing his style, his mentality, and also testing out the players to see who's fit, who's not for the team, for the tactics, and maybe to give them a surrounding in which they can prove their qualities, and if they don't, they can be sold out by the management.
So yeah, what you said I think is it pretty much encompasses the match without trying to like shit on anybody. It's extremely hard because it's not about results right this moment. Like nobody wants results in the International Champions Cup. Like who gives a fuck? Another thing I do want to note is that it was a 99% Manchester United crowd. Like I felt like I was watching a game at Old Trafford.
Yeah, that was crazy, yeah.
It just goes to show you how important marketing and stuff like that are. They're not part of football, even though they had close to none or close to nothing of a success in the last years, maybe except for the Europa League that Mourinho won, and later on they shit on Mourinho, even though he actually like gave them something to cheer about or expose their team to the Asian fans. So it's kind of weird, but I cannot wait to see the match against Juventus. Maybe in Suning's hometown we can get some crowd to be actually.
Oh yeah, Suning is probably gonna buy out the fucking stadium, and it's gonna be all black and blue.
All of their
For
employees
sure.
are gonna be in the.
Yeah, every employee is gonna be there.
Yes,
So
In summary, guys, so we are not worried about this result, right?
absolutely not.
We shouldn't pay too much attention to it. All right.
no alarm bells on anybody. Even like Skriniar, he came on slow last preseason. It just takes him a little while to get ready, as anybody else. Like these guys are still human, even though we want them to be superhuman robots that are going to win every single match.
There's nothing to worry about, especially because the season starts in 5 weeks, and if I'm not mistaken, the Premier League starts in 2 or 3 weeks. So that's basically 3 weeks more than United has for the preparations, and they were not that far off us, and they were quite bad. So
I mean, Manchester is a Europa League side right now compared to us. That's the only difference I could say. I mean, besides in being further in preparation, we are supposed to be a better side or a better team than them right now.
we do, but our best striker didn't play. Perisic is not fit for the system. So as the second best player in the season prior, there's no place for him. So he tried out as a left wing back. He tried as a striker. The position is not fit. Our third best player in the attacker or midfield, both Brozovic and Raja. Brozovic was playing decent in my opinion, but Raja didn't play at all. So that's like 3 out of the 4 players in both in midfield and in attack that didn't play. So taking that into consideration and taking into consideration that Pogba, they have a few, I would say, world-class players, both in De Gea and Pogba. They were not that dominant. I would expect more from them, especially because their season starts sooner than ours and because they played 2 matches prior to this one, I think in Melbourne against Leeds, which is kind of a good test or to assess where things out. So in summary, as you said, I'm not too worried about the result. I'm just my mindset is into Conte, and I just want Conte to implement both his playing style and the mentality. In my opinion, the mentality is more important than the playing style, but I trust him because I would trust him more than I would trust, I don't know, Auxilio, who didn't show anything so far that he can do.
My takeaway is about the same. I don't really think that it's too much about results yet. But if we look the same in 4 weeks, that's when we can get worried.
Yeah, alarm bells going off.
I don't think we will, especially because our defense is getting better. Barella is just getting into the team.
I'll just hope that some stuff changes. And it's still too early to tell. It's been 10 days. These guys are still all getting to know each other. Manchester United, they'd had the same coach for a year now, almost. Whenever they fired Mourinho, so I mean, they played under him before this season.
Yeah.
So he got like half a season, and then this preseason, Conte has had 10 days. So it's just going to be a little different. We've got a learning curve this summer, and we just hope for the best.
I just hope that Conte gets what he wants, because he needs a certain type of player to fit into his system. I mean, Sarri was the one that said, "I'm not a manager, I'm a coach." So if you just look through what he wanted to say, it's basically he can work with whatever you give him. He won't complain. But I expect from Conte more than I expect from Sarri. So saying that, I just hope that Conte gets Lukaku, gets Dzeko, 2 type of players that he likes, and all is good.
We've seen some stuff in the press conferences that have been in the past week and his post-match comments that he really still does want Lukaku. He said that we're behind in preparations, like bringing in players and all. And I don't think he's
Conte stripping already.
Well, I mean, he's had promises made to him, and they haven't come through yet. So he's got some right to criticize and to make his thoughts known. And we're paying this guy big money, and we're expecting this guy to take us to a higher level than Spalletti could. And that starts with getting his players. And his obsession with Lukaku may be a little questionable. It may be nearing Mancini and Torre. It may be nearing that level of obsession, almost stalkerish. But we got to get this guy his guys, and that's all there is to it. Have you guys seen anything from those press conferences that has worried you guys, or that you think he's right or wrong about?
Not really, because I think that, we've seen both at Chelsea that he wanted Lukaku, and apparently it seems like he considers Lukaku as focal point of the team, of his style of play. So I'm not surprised that he wants him. He pointed out in the press conference with Barella that he likes Lukaku a lot, but also he
likes Lukaku a lot.
A lot.
He likes Lukaku a lot.
A lot.
He likes Lukaku a lot.
A lot.
How much time?
7 times?
Yeah,
said it?
that it's like a girlfriend trying to tell you something that's too obvious, but you cannot understand it. Yeah, and he pointed out that he was a Manchester player, so he didn't want to talk about him, which is pretty. I would expect that from him. So Barella was quite quiet when he was asked a couple of questions, but I like him. I like Barella a lot because his playing style and him as a personality on the press conferences. So I'm a bit optimistic, but I think that if he gets the player he wants, he'll be successful, and it's just gonna end up pretty decent for us as fans, I think, because he's the best coach that we've had since Mourinho.
I think Mikey summed it up pretty well and said we put out a lot of money to get Conte, and it's time for the owners to support the manager and get him the damn players that he wants. I don't want any bullshit excuses about FFP or anything like that anymore. I think you're putting out 12 million per season to sign Conte. You went to war with Icardi. You went to war with Nangolan. Surprisingly, now you come out to say Perisic as well, not fitting in. I think ownership needs to step up and get him his players. And let's see what happens.
That's it. You pointed out very nicely. Because...
Thank you.
For the first time in 7 or 8 episodes. Because if you're already investing 11 million in a coach and you give him a 3-year contract, you should at least satisfy his needs, because I'm sure they talked about the players he wanted to purchase even before signing the contract. So, yeah,
definitely.
It's their part to play now. Just go out, sign the player that he wants, and I'm sure that he'll have a success because he's not a bad coach. Our team is not that bad.
I actually didn't say that I think he might be successful. I'm just saying he needs to get everything,
of course,
so that he can be successful. But
we had the same problem with Mancini too, right? When he left in just a week.
Yeah, that summer where he was complaining.
Yeah, he left the week before the season started. The book came, and everything fell apart.
Yeah, it was. I mentioned, I was talking to somebody earlier, and I mentioned that this summer kind of felt like that Mancini summer. Mancini wanted the squad thinned out. Conte has kind of alluded to that. Mancini wanted players. I think he still wanted Yaya Toure at that time. Conte still wants his players. He said he liked Lukaku 7 times in a press conference. So we've got to do this, or I'm not saying that we risk him fucking off a week before the season, but we just, as Inter, as having the target on our backs in Italy that we have now with Conte, the media is just going to be even more sensitive than usual. we need to get this guy his players so there's no drama in the papers, there's no drama anywhere, and there are no excuses for anybody.
Yeah, we know the media is going to blow everything with Inter out of proportion and make a scandal out of it. So I wasn't following Conte too much at Chelsea, but why did he leave there? Because I know he left Juve because he wasn't happy with the transfer that they were making. What was his issue at Chelsea? Was it transfers as well?
He lost the dressing room. It was more like results and mentality.
And even though he
Okay.
won the Premier
Alright.
League in his first season as Chelsea coach.
So
Yeah.
did Mourinho, right? Mourinho lost that dressing room after winning as well. That's like a
Probably, yeah.
Well, Chelsea's just an impossible place to stay more than like a season and a half. They just have a coaching carousel, but it seems to work for them.
That's Mourinho. Mourinho left that legacy there. He peaked too early for them.
He won a Premier League.
He set standards too high. He set the standards too high in his
Exactly.
first term. Nobody can.
It's not even that. It's like they're not appreciative enough, I think, because they're asking both about the playing style, a winning, because it's not easy to win while playing good. Most of the teams, we've seen Roma play a good football, but they haven't won shit. It's like,
Napoli.
yeah,
Talk about
they're
Napoli.
playing good, under Sarri especially. They're playing nicely, they're playing very good for the neutral fans, but they didn't win shit. I would much rather have a coach that plays a more defensive style, solidify the defense. We already had a good defense last season. Just implement a style in which there's a focal point both on the defense and the attack. Our defense is our biggest strength, so just focus on that. Use the players that you have both in the midfield and maybe Lukaku in the attack and Dzeko, and just play through them, exploit them, and there's a success on the end of it.
I guess in Italy, the best defense usually
Yeah.
win the league, right?
Yeah, I think Atalanta had the best attack last season, and that didn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, not to win titles.
We don't ask for beautiful football. We just want to win, and I think that as a club, that's the most important thing. Who cares about good football? I don't care if they want to appeal to a certain 10-year-olds in Macedonia. Couldn't care less. Just win me a title, so I don't have to be ashamed to go to school or university every day or every week.
Yeah, after we win 5 titles in a row with boring football, maybe we could complain about getting nice, pretty football after
Yeah,
that,
just like Juventus are.
Right now, yeah, exactly. Let's win something and then we can worry about playing good football.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something you said, Chino. You were talking about how the media is going to be on us, and I had mentioned that too. But even just in the friendlies that have happened in the past few days, Juve lost to Tottenham, Napoli lost to Benevento last week, we lost to Manchester United, and Milan drew with Novara. And the only one you've heard about is us, and then Juve, just because they got cashed out on from midfield by Harry Kane. But everyone's worried about us and no one else, which I guess is also our fan base likes to melt down. But also, I mean, you don't see anyone else having the problems that we have in the media or anywhere else.
Yeah, that sums up perfectly, because I didn't even know that Milan even played Novara until somebody tweeted that they drew. And I was like quite surprised to see that, because none of the news account that I follow on the app, nobody even...
Stop following Inter accounts. If you follow something with variety here, sir, what do you expect?
I mean, I'm following a certain Juve accounts. I follow you, so...
Okay.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, even IMTV, you maybe see something from those guys, but they didn't say a word about Milan.
No, but yeah, for real. Because, I mean, does that surprise you really? Because they've always been against us. Nobody even likes Inter. They've always been the black sheep. They've always been the one that is being crucified for everything they do. And Juventus and Milan are like their favorite kids. We are just the middle kid right now. Nobody cares about us until we fuck up.
But that's how it's always been.
That's the way we like it, though.
Yeah, that's why we come back and we keep getting hurt
Yeah,
year
but
after year.
as being
Yeah.
that, you are not very appreciated when you do something, and when you do something wrong, you're crucified more than Juventus are in the same situation. How many times did they fuck up? Nobody even talks about Tottenham. They spent 60, 70, or 80 million on a player, on a 19-year-old defender, and he fucked up. Rabiot gets 8 million euros per season. He fucked up the last goal when Kane scored from the middle of the pitch. And
Yeah.
you don't see that. Of course you don't see that. If that was Kondogbia with the Euro goal when he scored the own goal, he was all over the media. He was all over the field. And nobody even talks about Rabiot.
Oh, Rabiot
It
also
is. It
didn't
is
put
what
in
it is. Yeah.
the fair.
I mean, yeah, but like, I don't expect the media to like Inter. I've always liked being the Ibrahimovic in this situation because he loves being crucified. He loves being talked shit to, and I don't mind Inter being that. I quite like it. I don't care. Just don't bring that shit into a game. Don't be, oh, Inter gets this, Inter gets that. Just stay out of it. Leave Inter do that shit, and we can win something at the end of the season. Maybe we're positive. The positivity land.
Positivity land population like 2. So we've got some transfers now that have come out in the past week. Some newer names, some older names, just stuff that seems to be around, just some buzz. We've got some ideas of maybe a Cavani deal or Zapata being a plan B to Lukaku if we can't get him, which some outlets are saying that we won't. Some outlets say that we will. The last comments by Conte have supposedly pushed through the Dzeko deal, which is looking to be around 15 million. We've got some contact with guys like Ante Rebic, who I called in one of the earlier episodes, I think. I'll blow my own horn there. So we've got some talk also about Milinkovic Savic. We've heard it a lot of this summer. It's probably like some Fantacalcio that we always see just to get everybody hyped up and mad at Suning when it doesn't happen. But that would also nobody would say no to that. That's one player that everybody can agree on, but probably not going to happen. Out of all these names and any other names that you guys have heard, what do you guys think about what's going on in the market right
now? But the news about Cavani earlier this week, I think it got everybody on Twitter excited, even me as well. I think he's one of the players who we would love to see at Inter over Lukaku, probably over Dzeko as well, or as first choice while Dzeko being backup. I think that's the one player everybody wants, and I all on board with it. I don't think it's gonna happen. No, well, I'm not saying I don't think it's gonna happen. I have my doubts about Lukaku actually coming for the price Manchester want, so I strongly want Eddie Cavani at Inter. He can replace Icardi in my opinion, even if it's for a short period. Zapata, nah, he's a Juve killer. He has 20 goals against Juve recently. Something I like in a striker, something that made me like Icardi. I'll take him as well. So, no disappointment there for me if we don't get Lukaku and sign either of those two players.
Yeah, as you said, I think Lukaku at that price is a quite risky deal because he's not proven in the league. But also at the same time, if he is a crucial player, as Conte said, for his system, then open the bag and spend the money. You can do it in installments. I'm pretty sure it's viable for both parties, just like Juventus did with the league, with which they opted to pay in 5 installments, if I'm not mistaken. As far as the Zapata deal goes, I think that he's maybe the perfect replacement if we cannot get Lukaku deal done. But I have my reservation about Zapata. I like him as a player. I really do, but 60 million for a player that scores 20 goals, 20 plus goals in one season, and he's 28. I don't know. I'm not very sold on him. As far as the Cavani rumors go, I think that he's a good player. I haven't seen much of him in the French league. But from what I've seen him play with Suarez in the Uruguay team, I think that he is the best out of the bunch and he has the most experience. I think he would be the player that Inter fans would choose if they had to. I like Rebic too, but I don't see him fitting in Conte's system because he's not that type of player. But as a player, I like him a lot.
I think he could be a second striker.
Lautaro is going to be the second striker, if I'm not mistaken, this season.
Well,
Politano.
wait until Conte's season before we make any presumptions on Lautaro. I'm sorry. I mean, obviously we think he's going to play and whatnot, but
he's amazing.
Wait until he plays a little bit and Conte gets to see him before Conte just changes his mind and say he can't fit the system or some kind of fuckery again.
I like what you said about Cavani talking about with Uruguay, that he played with Suarez up there, played with two strikers, because I didn't think about that. I've just thought about him at PSG playing with one striker. I don't remember if he played with another one at Palermo. He's proved that he can play with two strikers. That kind of sold me a little more with you saying that.
Yeah, I think he played with both Hamšík and Lavezzi in Napoli as two maybe attacking wingers or attacking midfielders, and Lavezzi more of a second striker. But I think not only that, but Cavani in Uruguay played even with a 3-back formation. Cáceres, Jimenez, and Godin were at the back. So we have Godin, Vecino, and Cavani in our team, that all of them played a 3-back or 3-5-2. All of them know themselves. All of them may be perfect for a Conte system. But I don't see that rumor being viable, especially because he is a crucial player for PSG, and they don't seem to be a club willing to sell their best players. And they haven't sold anyone, I think, that's been crucial for them in the past 5-6 years.
That's true.
They sold Ibrahimovic.
I mean, he was old, and they already had Cavani.
Some other stuff we've had going on this week. If you guys have been keeping up with Inter's actual page, because I don't think it's shown up anywhere else, a lot of Primavera guys, former Primavera guys, have either gone out on loan to lower sides or they've been sold permanently to these lower sides, but no prices have really been shown. I think Gravion we bought from Pescara last season. We're flipping him in a loan and only getting like 1 million back for that. But everyone else that's going out has either been just loan and option or is going out with permanent, probably like 750,000 euro transfers. There's not much really to talk about there. Karamo's gone to Parma. That's a loan and obligation. Best of luck to him, I guess. Another thing happening in the Inter whole website, their social media, is they did this campaign that they hyped everyone up for. This kind of bothered me, kind of annoyed me, disappointed me, whatever. Maybe I'm a little butthurt. But the Not For Everyone campaign, it started out, we've seen it on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you get your media. It was this campaign that they hyped up. They even had pop-ups across Milano, like they had some kind of projections on the buildings. I don't know. It's all convoluted. But they were like, yeah, July 15th. Or I think it was the 15th or the 17th, whatever day it was, that day came around, and it just turned out to be some cheesy-ass video. And It was like a 7th grader wrote the rhyme scheme or something. I don't know what the fuck was going on. There's like 4 protagonists. I don't know what's going on. Some people were like, yeah, we're about to now announce a player. We're about to announce Dani Alves or something. And
Griezmann.
Yeah,
going off, yeah. That was definitely the Griezmann up in that building, you know? There was a guy looking off there, yeah.
Yeah, the conspiracy theories and all that bullshit, and it just turned out to be a 2-minute video that was just a waste of everyone's time.
My conspiracy theory is that this whole Not For Everyone campaign is about Icardi, by the way. I think, you know?
Well, with what
Put your tinfoil hat on.
Inter's not for anyone.
Rajan Angalan as well. Sorry, but more for Ali.
No, but I think not for
But-
everyone. It's clearly about the club, the mentality of the club not being for everyone. Like the type of football we play, the wins that we go through, the wins against Lazio, against Empoli to get us to Champions League, that's not for everyone. Not everyone can sit through a match for 90 minutes and has his feet in his mouth for 90 minutes. So
Does that? Sorry.
yeah,
Okay,
not for
continue.
everyone. For me, is that not everyone can be an Inter fan because Inter is crazy.
And now that I'm glad you said it, does that contradict with what Conte's philosophy and Morata's philosophy as well?
Yep, just change the mentality.
So, yeah, so not for everyone is Inter style, but yet Conte, Morata here come to change this style of
But-
Inter to not be crazy anymore.
mean,
no
we're-
Pazza Inter. So,
selling
come
a
on.
Cardi. Get over it. He's selling a Cardi. I'm sorry.
No, we having a discussion. Crystal just said what he thinks not for everyone is. And I'm
But that's just
saying,
my opinion.
These guys come here. Oh, well, all right. That's what you interpret
Yeah.
it, though.
I think you're right in a way, but I also think that Chino, you do have a point saying that Conte came in and said word for word, no more Pazza Inter, but it doesn't look like they want to go in that direction. Which I mean, in marketing, you don't want the plain guy. You want the one that's going to drive you up the wall. But we'll see. I'm sure this will be on T-shirts. This will be on the walls. They'll put it on a flag somewhere. But
We're not buying those
also,
t-shirts.
with what Conte
No, we're buying Brothers of the World t-shirts soon to come out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, don't worry about that.
We'll start with this first one, and then we'll get out everybody's ears. Our first question, it comes from Football Italia. It's obviously not the platform, but
Susie.
at 1908 Grande. Yeah, it's not Susie. 1908 Grande Inter on Twitter. They ask, what striker should Inter get, assuming Icardi is sold?
Get who Conte wants first choice, Lukaku. If that's Conte's choice, I would go for Cavani. But we need to get Lukaku for Conte.
I agree with Chino. I think if he wants Lukaku,
Yes!
if he wants Lukaku, he should get Lukaku at any cost. If he considers him as the most important player in his system. But if I had to choose, I would go with Cavani because Cavani is a world-class player that has been proven both in Serie A, the French league, on international level against every possible competition. So that's the short answer, and it's quite clear for me.
Yeah, I agree. There's not much we can put into that past that. So the next question also brings in Lukaku. Mancuso at Don Mancuso says and then asks, his concern is spending 80 plus million on Lukaku only for him to be a huge bust. We would be stuck with another high paid player that we will struggle to sell and won't get half of what we paid. Is this worth it? Or would you prefer signing another striker? If so, who?
Well, we know if not Lukaku, Cavani for sure. I have major concerns about Lukaku. It's not my favorite choice, especially at that price. And I agree with everything. We're going to have a player who we're trying to rejuvenate from having a bad a previous season before we looking to get the best out of him now. We don't know if he's going to settle into Italian football. The price is obscene. The wage is going to be obscene. And if it doesn't work out, we're really going to be stuck with somebody who we can't move on a huge mega contract. The only reason I want him is because Conte is adamant we have to get him, and at this point in time, we have no choice but to try to support the manager.
Yeah.
That's the only reason
Is
I
it
want
worth
him.
it, 80 million? I don't think so. If I had to choose, I said either Lukaku or Cavani because he's proven at every level, and that would be my answer, which links to the previous question.
Yeah, I agree that I think it's a big risk trying to pay that much. And his wages, I think he's agreed to like 9.5, if I'm not mistaken, a year.
That's crazy.
So that's a shit ton of money. And if he fucks up, we're fucked. So I don't think it's worth it, but we need to for the sake of Conte because that's what he wants.
That motherfucker is crazy.
That motherfucker is crazy, but
Yeah.
we gotta ride the train if we want to see what's gonna happen. If I could sign someone else, because I think we're gonna sign Lukaku, I believe that's almost inevitable. I would want Cavani because of reasons stated before. And that's all I have to say about that. I don't think there's too much more we can add. And our last question here from the El Mate Vecino fan club
Oh.
at Perisic Pero. He asks, how long do you plan on having a Cardi side part, Chino, on your pod?
Should we answer that?
I'm not leaving.
We're not leaving.
We have a contract
You're
up until New Year. And then we might opt out for a...
Talk to my agent. Wanda Nara.
Yo, we may need a girl on the pod. Chin is not that irreplaceable. He's like the Ranocchia of the pod. So...
Should not be.
Just imagine Chino right now sitting there like Leo DiCaprio on...
I'm not leaving. Yeah,
Just be
I'm
like,
not leaving. Oh gosh. All right.
Okay, next week there's going to be 2 games, I believe. We have Juve in the midweek, and then we have PSG on the weekend. And we'll be back for those 2 games. We'll have a lot of thoughts. We'll have whatever else happens in the transfer window. Yeah, guys, that's all we've got. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.